Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi say here we are back again at Torah Anytime Estates, the Gan Eden of Torah Anytime, Torah Shiurim. We are in this beautiful country atmosphere. Morabu Masecho Hashem. How great is your creation, God. God created it. It is not nature or natural order. It's divine law. God created the world the way it is today. The world was not always here. He created it. Bereshis bara Elokim. It's not a steady state philosophy as they think it is. It was created one day, 57, 70 years ago, and in 3 weeks it'll be 57, 71, Tavshin Ayin Aleph, and that's they call the Big Bang, the modern people. We know it from 5,770 years ago that it was created. It was not always here. So now let us talk about the Parshas Ki Tetzei. Ki Tetzei is the only parsha in the Torah that has the maximum amount of mitzvahs, 74. It has the most mitzvahs. The last week's parsha had 41, the one before that 55. How come every parsha, almost every parsha in the fifth Sefer Devarim has so many mitzvahs? Because the fourth book, Bamidbar, ended with mitzvah number 400, and we have 613. So you have about 200 to make up in the next 10, 12 sedras. So each sedra has 45, 55, 41. This one has 74. Some have very few. So some sedras don't have any. Some have 3, 4, 5, 6. This has 74, the maximum. That makes this sedra unique, this parsha. Number two, it's unique because it's the only parsha in the Torah that has a word that could be written in the Sefer Torah two different ways. One of the physical blemishes of a human being can have that he cannot marry a Jewish person is a Patsua Dako, a certain physical problem. Dako is spelled Dalet Chaf Aleph if you're an Ashkenazi Sofer and you're writing it for Ashkenazim, and Dako Dalet Chav Hey if you're a Sephardi. And both ways are 100% correct. All the other sfekas in the Torah is a machlokas, which way you write it, this way or that way. This is no machlokas. Dako with an aleph is written, the chatchila with an aleph if you're Ashkenaz. Good way to remember it is aleph is Ashkenaz, right? First letter of Ashkenaz. And hey is for a Sephardi, Besua Dako. The other problems where there's a machlokas, do you say Vayiyu you may Noach, or Vayihi may Noach? Or is it Avram had Pilak Shim with 1 yud or Pilak Shim with 2 yuds? Okay, but Besua Dako is the only one you can write the Chatchila 100% kosher either way. That's the second thing that makes his Pasha unique. Third thing that makes his Pasha unique is it's the only Pasha that has a pasuk that does not have a pshat. Every single pasuk in the Torah has a pshat and a drush and a sod and a remez, but this one, but they all have pshat first. Ein mikra Yosef pshuto. No pasuk can not mean its simple meaning also. This one has no pshat. One pasuk. It's about a yavam who does yibum with the yavama, and it says Habachar, the first one that's born, shall have double portion. Well, the one that's born means the second husband, not the child. He has a second double portion because his brother died, so he gets his Yerusham. And now he gets his Yerusham. And therefore he's like a Bechar, who gets a double portion from their father. So that's the only pasuk, Gemara says, it's the only pasuk that doesn't have a pshat. It means only drasha. There's another, that's a 3 reason. There's a 4th reason. Ki Tetzei is unique. Now let us go and learn some of the 74 mitzvahs of Ki Tetzei. Ki Tetzei la mechama alo yivecha. If you go to war against your enemy, of course, who you go against? Your friend? Of course, oyevecha. Well, the two types of enemies, son echa and oyevecha. Oyevecha is a goy. Son echa or son Yisrael. And some Jews could hate you worse than goy. Some Jews hate at the fact they're born Jewish, you know that? They want to improve the Torah. They want to modernize the Torah. They want to reform the Torah. Well, they're fools because they don't believe in God. Oh, they'll tell you they believe in God. But they don't believe in God. They believe He's out there somewhere, but they don't believe God has anything to do with them. Because if they have anything to do with them, God told them to keep Shabbos and Kashrus and Tzitzis and Tefillin and 613 mitzvahs. They believe in God as an idea, not a real belief. Because a belief means He spoke to your grandfather at Sinai, and He's incumbent upon you to keep certain mitzvahs, otherwise you'll be punished. And if you do the mitzvahs, you'll be rewarded. They believe in God as a theory, not a practice. Because if you really believe in God, you don't work Friday afternoon after Shkia. And if you do, you don't believe in God. Oh, you believe in the idea, but it has nothing to do with your personal life. So that's nonsense. You cannot believe in being a doctor unless you go to medical school. You say to the against your enemies. And ki, if, means you're talking about milchemes rishus, not a milchemes mitzvah. There's only two types of milchemes mitzvah possible in this world. The fight against Amalek, milchemes mitzvah, and milchemes against the 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael. To take Eretz Yisrael, that was promised to Abraham, because Hashem owns all real estate, and He told when the world was created, He said, this land belongs to you, but you have to wait 2,448 years. And because of the Meraglim, it was 2488, and then you take it. If they would have taken it in the beginning without sending Meraglim, there wouldn't have been any opposition. They walked in, out, and they would have left. But now that they had 40 years, the Goyim gave them a chizuk, because they see the Jews were not living up to their high level, so now they fought them for 7 years. 7 years of kibush, then 7 years of chiluk, subdivision. So, if you live a Torah life, it's so pashut, it almost sounds childish. Yeah, Hashem said you walk into the country and it'll be yours. You don't have to have Meraglim. God never asked you to send Meraglim. You want to do it on your own because you have a doubt. Otherwise you wouldn't have sent them, would you? So Hashem told Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, this is your country, take it. When the time comes, walk in and say hello, out you go. And they would have left. And that's so simple, it's almost childish. People don't believe it. But it's true. All great things are simple. You know, in the world of inventions, you know how simple hula hoop can make a man billions? Simple stuff. The greatest invention and discovery in modern times is E equals MC squared. Not complicated. Because all the great things are simple. Simple truths are absolute. Complicated things are twisted. So let's take a look. You say to the Mechama, if you go to war against your enemy, which means Mechemes Rishus, when the son Hashem Yodecha, God gives them into your hand, you capture them. But Shavisa Shivyon, you capture many captives, so it has to be a Mechemes Rishus. Because Mechemes Mitzvah, there are no captives. Everybody's annihilated. But Re'isa B'Shivya, you see in the Shivya, amongst the captives, Eishes Yifas Toa, a beautiful woman. Even an Eishes Ish, even a married woman. We're talking about a Goyim. And by a Goy, Eishes Ish and not an Eishes Ish is all the same. Because Eishes Ish is only by Yisrael. Hariyat Mekudeshesli, which means she's usher for every human being in the world to touch except the husband. And she's Mekudeshes. After she's Mekudesh, she's only Erison. Nisuyan means after the Sheva Brachas. So it means it's usher for the husband and usher for the world. Anyone has relations with her, the child's a mamzer, even though she's half married. Hariyat Mekudeshesli is only by Yisrael. So there's no difference, Eishes Ish by a guy or a Penuya, it's all the same. But even if it's Eishes Ish, and if a guy takes another Eishes Ish, that's Geneva. But if a Yid lives with another Eishes Ish, Yisrael is Misa. So even a married woman, and she's very beautiful, but you have a desire for her, not just for Zenus. You really see a connection of the Neshama, you want to marry her. You see, you have a real cheshek, not just a taiva. But you take her for a wife, not for a Zenus. You take her into your home. That's right, you can only go to war if you're a married man, which means you have a wife. No bachar is ever allowed to go to war. But you take her into her house and your wife sees what you brought home. The Gilchas Rosh, and you shave her bald to see if you really love her, because if you really love her, it's not depending on her beauty. Now you do her fingernails. Some hold you cut them all off to make her ugly. Some say let them grow very long to make her ugly. Depends what makes her more ugly, because if you really love her, the looks don't mean anything. You take off her garments of captivity, because the women used to dress very suggestively in order that the soldiers should fight harder and give up and put their life in sakana, so the braver one, the hero of their soldiers, should get her. Or if she's captured, the enemy should not destroy her, kill her, have pity on her. She tried to subdue them with her power of attraction. So she take off those clothes, put on her ugly clothes. Yosef put on black clothes. Yosef and live in your house. She cries for her father, as Ima, her mother, which means Amma for her religion, because she sees how you practice Yiddishkeit. Yerach Yomim, 30 days, which means 90 days. Yerach is 30, Yom is 30, Ba'achar, and afterwards the 30 is 90 days. Cain, then you can marry her, Mu'alto, and have relations with her. She becomes to you 100% like a wife, not a zona. If your first wife permits. Taking her home is about, that'll do it for you. Because the woman will say, hello, Chaim Yankel, me or her, which one is it? It's a very difficult thing. So the Torah says we want to see if you have a chesh, if there's really something in this captive that is really some maybe vestige of a Jewish neshama. Because you have very many big Tanoi and Amoraim who have vestiges of previous people who had Goyim, who had some neshama of a yid. They turned out eventually into great tzaddikim. So is this a physical attraction, or do you see a soulmate, a true soulmate? Yes.
What would make the wife allow the person to...
If the man goes to war as a true tzaddik and sees the chukka of a neshama for another neshama, he's truly, sincerely, he sees that God caused this for you to meet her. And then if the wife is big enough, understanding of, she will allow him to marry her, because maybe we have cases of Hananya ben Tzaradian was that the neshama of some great person. You'd never know how Hashem distributes neshamas in the world. The Ger Tzedek told the Vilna Gaon before he was burnt in fire on Shavuos 1760. He says, when Hashem peddled the Torah around the whole world, all the Goyim said no, but there were Yechidim who were outnumbered, and they wanted it. And these are the Gerim. So maybe this is a lost neshama that he notices. My father brings down a Mayim Beis HaSheibon. Never in the history of the world was there ever a case like this of a Eishes Yifas Torah. That a true tzaddik, following a true leader, and a war of Mechemes Mitzvah, that Mechemes Rishus, that the leader was a tzaddik and all the people were tzaddikim. Never happened such a case like that of a Eishes Yifas Torah. It never happened such existence. Look at the Mayim. That doesn't happen. And don't bring me the Rai from David HaMelech, because that's not that's the exception. So it never happened such a thing. Eishes Yifas Torah. Never. Looking through a Tanakh. Never happened that a man would have even a suffix like this. Because people who go to war, the biggest tzaddikim, and they fast on the day of war, and there's the biggest tzaddikim. The biggest tzaddikim are not the best fighters. Hashem Ishmo Chama. You go through the motions, I'll take care of everything else. The Jews in many wars were totally outnumbered. Weren't the Chashmonaim outnumbered? 12 Chashmonaim, and they beat the Greeks. Don't worry about numbers. That's why Bar Kiva figured out that Bar Kokhba was a fraud. Because you ask him, why did he take Goyim in the Jewish army? He said, well, we need that. We're outnumbered. He said, yeah, what does numbers mean? It means nothing. Oh, you don't trust in Hashem. So you have to have the numbers. So he figured out what all his friends knew before, that this man was not the real Mashiach. He could have been. He was not Dorach Kochov Meyakov. He wasn't the one that Hashem meant. Bar Kochba, but like Yaakov said, Dorach Kochov Miyakov. He was a fraud. Bar Koziva, he named him. You're a fraud, he said. And they told him, Akiva, we don't know why, but the guy is not the guy. He couldn't figure it out. No, Akiva. He didn't believe his Chaverim, and finally at the end he admitted he was wrong and they were right. So I once came up with the Chiddush, how come he, Rabbi Akiva, who was the Gilgal of Moshe Rabbeinu, 120 years, most Talmidim that any Atan ever had, 24,000 Moshe had, whole Klal Yisrael. He was the Gilgal of Moshe Rabbeinu. How come he couldn't figure this out? So this had nothing to do with intelligence. You see, Rabbi Akiva was Ben Gavin, lacking schus of us. Schus Ava sometimes directs you to do the right thing, even though you don't know why. It's Schus Avas. It saves you from tight situations. Sakanas, Schus Avas. Operates with or without your knowledge. David HaMelech, Rav Akiva didn't have Schus Avas. Yeah, big Talmud Chochem going out to you, one of the greatest people ever lived. I know, but no Schus Avas. He was not a Ger, he's Ben Ger. There's something in Schus Avas. Nani had to admit they're right, he's wrong. He was not Mashiach. He was a fraud. Maybe he could have been Mashiach. He was a very big tzaddik, but at the end, he weakened. We had a lot of fraud Mashiachim. At the end, they all proved to be frauds. I have to tell you, they mean well maybe, but they're not the man. They're not the man. Shabsai Tzvi, the Muslim said, either you convert to Islam or we cut your head off. Convert. That's Mashiach. We have many of them. David Ruveni and Shlomo Molcho, David Ruveni. Machaber calls them my friends. They meant it sincerely. They were 100% sincere, but they were not the ones. Shlomo Molcho and David Ruveni. Machaber even brings down the din. We have to pass him like Shlomo Molcho in tzitzis. About how many turns you make on the tzitzis. 7, 8, 11, 13, or maybe it's something else. And he brings down, he liked Shlomo Molcho. He was a totally sincere man. Look it up. Shlomo Molcho and David Ruveni. They were not the ones, though. And they had hundreds of thousands of people following them. And they convinced the popes and the this and the that. Jews are sometimes in such great sorrow, they're looking for some out. And in modern times, we had this, going back to Palestine, with this people starting in 1888, an answer to the terrible problem. We can't criticize so strongly. They're looking for an out of the Tsaras in Russia, so they look for somebody to help them, some kind of Mashiach. Until today, we're looking for that. We're waiting for the real one. Anyhow, let's not get on that subject. Now the Or HaChaim sees this whole pasuk deeper. When you go to war every single day of your life against the enemy, that's the Yetzer Hara. He wants to kill you. He wants you to go to Gehenna. And it happens all the time, not once in a blue moon. And you're given over to his hands. You're grabbed by the Yetzer Hara. And he captures you. Or Isa b'shivya, and you see in the shivya a beautiful woman, you have some explanation for it. It's why you should give in to the Yetzer Hara. And you want to do it b'chashaktabo, and you take her for a wife, you really believe in that concept. And you take him into your house, you probably explain it away why it's mutter. And then you have to defang the Yetzer Hara. Let's see if it's really telling you the truth. Is this thing really you should believe in this? Take off her beautiful Gilchas Rosha, uncover her hair. Means shave her head bald. Do you really, when you think this over, the Yetzer Hara, is it really going to come out for your good? Cut it down to its essence. Also, now make her ugly. Do you really think that this Yetzer Hara is going to turn out for your good? And take off all the trappings of her captivity. Analyze the thing you're getting involved with. Let us live. Why don't you think about it for 30 or 60 or 90 days? And then if you hold that this is 100% kosher, and you can control the Yetzer Hara, then you can be your wife. You can incorporate it into your life. If the Yetzer Hara is really a good thing, you have to find out. And if you don't, if you don't want it, send her away, this woman or your Yetzer Hara. Send her away. Don't sell her with money, because you already tortured her. If you kept her captive. Allah says, don't you work her? You already tortured her. You captured her. You tortured her. You could have killed her. She's an enemy. You see, you did her a favor. So why didn't you kill her or free her right away? You tortured her for 30 or 60 or 90 days. Send her home if you don't want her. That's the first thing. If a man has 2 wives, Why does the Torah permit Eishes Yefas Torah? The Torah, the Ramban says, this is something that is mutar, but it's really not suggested. You shouldn't do it. Kaddish atzmcha b'mutalach. Sanctify yourself, even though it's permissible. Which means the first moment you see this Eishes Yefas Torah on the battlefield, you can have a relationship with her on the spot, only once. Once you're over your original passion, then you have to think it over for 90 days if you really want to marry her as a wife. Therefore, think it over very well. Which means it's mutter, but not suggested. A lot of things in the Torah are mutter, but not suggested. Kaddish atzmecha b'mutalach. Even though you have a lot of kosher food in front of you, you don't have to eat 3 ice creams. Because Kaddish atzmecha b'mutalach, even though it's permissible, don't overdo any even permissible pleasure. The Torah is testing you, which means if you give in to this heter, which you have a right to do one time, then it will eventually lead to other things. This heter, yeah, but it leads to other difficulties. Hashem is giving you enough rope to hang yourself. If you're smart, you get away right away. But if you fall in and you do something that's mutter, al pi halach is mutter, the first time with her, then you know what the result will be? The second thing. If you have a man has 2 wives, and before Rabbi and Gershon you have right to have up to 8 wives, and a king 18, polygamy, bigamy is mutter al pi Torah, but not suggested, because Avram had 2 and there was machlokas. Yaakov had 4 and there was machlokas. It's highly not suggested. Permissible, yes. There are a lot of things that are permissible, but we don't want to know what's mutter. We want to do the right thing. But at the end result is going to be the best. So, ki yisenu li'ishtei noshim, a man has 2 wives. Achas ahuva, one he loves. Achas senua, one he hates. Can't live with her if you hate her. It means you only love her 99%. That means you hate her as much. You don't like her as much as the other one. How can Yaakov stay with Rachel Leah? Leah says, senua nochi. And it's also to live with a woman if you hate her. It means she doesn't love me as much as love Rachel. That means senua. If you're not 100%, it's hated. Like my father used to say, 99% emes is 100% sheker. It can't be anything but 100%. Achas ahuva, one you love, achas senua, v'yolder lo bonim, and both of them have wives. Ahuva v'asnua, the loved one and the hated one. Hoyi lo haben abachor l'sniya, on the second, and the bechor of the firstborn, the first real bechor is the one you hate. Then when you want to give your estate away to your children, you cannot give it to the one you love. You have to give it to the one who's the firstborn. When he inherits his children to his estate, everything he has, he can't choose as ben ha'uva, the son of the loved one, who is not the bechor, on the son of the one he hates, but she had the bechor. Now you can inherit him if he doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. But let's say both keep Torah mitzvahs, but one you love more than the other, but the one you don't love so much had a bechor. That's the one you have to give the double portion, Pish 9. Now here we have a succession. Eishes Yefas Torah, you're allowed to do it. You marry her the first time, have relations with her, and then take her into your house and go through the process. So it's suggested not to go for Eishes Yefas Torah. If you do, look what the result. You're going to hate her. You're going to hate her. And the one that you love so much with this passion, you're going to hate her. You're going to have trouble with inheritance, and there's a fight between the kids. Then it goes further. He has a bechor ben snua yakir. The bechor, the firstborn, from the snu off, and the one you hate, yakir, you have to recognize him. The seisla pishnayim, give him double portion. Everything you have in your possession. Who raised his own because he's the first of your strength. Lo, to him mishpat habor belongs the din of bechora. By the way, the word bechor here is written beis chav reish. You know bechor, beis chav reish. Wherever in the Torah you have the word bechor, when it talks about inheritance of double portion, it's always written without the vav, because beis chav reish is the only word in the Torah where every letter is double the letter in front of it. Beis is double aleph, chav is double yud, and reish is double kuf. That's a remes to Pishnayim, that bechor gets double, because beis is double aleph, chav is double yud, and reish is double kuf. Now we go further. So you took Eishes Yefas Torah, which you was permitted but not suggested, not recommended. Then you're going to hate one of the women, the Yefas Torah. And you're going to have trouble with the kids, machlokas, who gets double portion. Then you're going to have the third problem. You have a man has a so rare, and a rebellious son. So rare, he's a strayer. He doesn't keep the mitzvahs asay. More, he teaches himself new laws. He doesn't keep the los asays. He doesn't keep. He goes away from mitzvah asay and he violates the los asays. So rare, umore, a strayer and a rebel. Ain't doesn't listen to his mother and father's voice. Yisro, so in the Bezdin warns them to give him malchus a few times, and then finally they have to execute him. Lo Yishamayim doesn't listen to them. By the way, a so rare more can only be between the age of 13 and 13 to 3 months. 90 days out of your life, you could be a so rare more. That's it. Never happened, never could happen. Yeah. Well, his mother and his father grab him physically. See, also they bring him to the elders of the Bezdin. Asher Shar Makom at the gate of the city. And they say to the Zikna Ira after they warned him and the Bezdin gave him malchus already. But Nainu said, this our son, so rare More, he is a so rare strayer, he doesn't keep the mitzvah say, More, and he goes against the los say, he teaches himself he has his own agenda. He's a teen at risk. And then he doesn't listen to our voice. Zolil the sober, beside that he's a glutton and a drunk. At 13 and 3 months, you're already interested in gluttonous and drunk. You should, a teenage boy usually has other things on his mind. You were so addicted, so bad. You're addicted to food at 13 and 3 months. So what they do, the people have to stone him. Rogam, Gorem, Rogam. Once they Vasoklu, they have to stone him. Why you say Rogam? Because he was Gorem, his own meat. They told him, don't do this, don't do that, because you're going to get steal him. Don't do this. They warned him. They gave him malchus, and they didn't listen. So he was Gorem to his own meat. So Rogamuho Goram, the Kol Anshi Ira Bavonim V'Mesin, he dies. We are to Romi Kabech and wipe out the evil from your community and from your midst. Kol Yisrael Yishma Biro, and all the Jews should hear and see. How can all Jews hear and see? It's done on Chalamoid Sukkot or Chalamoid Pesach. First day Chalamoid, public execution. It never happened. It never could happen, says the Gemara. And Ir Hanidachas, a city that goes away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and does secretly their worship of Avodah Zarah, it says you have to burn down the whole city. That never happened. It never could happen. Then it says Negatzuras. Never happened, never could happen. What does that mean? 3 things that never happened, never could happen. Tzuras, what do you mean? Moshe Rabbeinu had it for a minute. I know. Moshe Rabbeinu, biggest tzaddik in the world. Aaron and Miriam, yeah, for 1 minute. Uzziah Melch Yehuda on his forehead, right. 26 years. And David HaMelech, 6 months. It only happened to the greatest tzaddikim in the world. It's a nega, a touch from heaven. A divine punishment, only tzaddikim get that. Average people never get it. Naaman, the Gaisha general, that Elisha told him jump in the river. He jumped in the Yarden and he was cured. Tzuras, you don't get cured by jumping in any river. Tzuras is for Lashon Hara, and Goyim never get it. So he got leprosy. And Gehazi and his 3 sons got Naaman's disease, leprosy, and they died from it. It's incurable leprosy. This looks like leprosy. It's called Tzuras, and it's cured only by Kohen and not by going in a river. It's by stop talking Lashon Hara. So my father explains in the Maya on Pharaoh who touched Sarah, he got leprosy, died from that. Naaman died from that eventually, even though he got cured. And Gehazi and his 3 sons died from that leprosy, but only 5 people got tzuras. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, Uzziah, Melch Yehuda, and David HaMelech. You have to be a very big tzaddik. So it never happened to an average person. And you know why? Because it says in Parshas Ki Tetzei, your body gets it only after the clothes get it. The whip and the booth, your shirt is woven horizontal and vertical. That's how you weave. The horizontal stitches turn green, and the other ones, the vertical, turn red. That has to happen before the body gets it. No one ever heard of begonim getting tzuras. You know why? Because that can't be. That's step number 2. Step number 1 is the house. The cement of the house. The horizontal cement turns red, and the vertical cement holding the bricks turns green. And that could never happen except if the house is in Eretz Yisrael, and only if it has 4 corners and made for certain material. Therefore, since there was never a bais menuga, there was never the second step, which is a begodim. And then that never happened. Nobody's guf ever got tzuras except those 5 people. So why do you learn tzuras? Drush v'kabel schar. Darshan learn Torah about the evil of lashon hara. Hanidachas never happened either. Why do you learn it? Drush v'kabel schar. Spensora Mora never happened. Impossible, because the father and mother have to have the same voice, and they have to have all these things, these conditions. It's never. Why do you have to learn Ben Sora Mora? Yanidachas. A lot of things in the Torah are to train your mind in the Torah value system. Lashon hara, a rebellious son. Lashon hara, rebellious son, or rebellious city. So this is drush v'kabel schar. A lot of things in the Torah they're theoretical, not only for the body, for the neshama. The way the Torah mind has to work a certain way, a certain connection. One more thing before we finish. That was the beginning of the Seder. And why did they stone a 13-year-old between 13 and 3 months? Because if he has such an addiction, in those 90 days after Bar Mitzvah, he steals from his mother and father, buys cheap wine and cheap meat, and he's a glutton, not interested in playing ball or maybe even arayos. This is such a perversion. They kill him as a favor, because if he has this addiction, and you let him continue with his addiction, he'll eventually rob people, and if they defend themselves, he'll kill them. So rather he should die innocent of murder than chayiv misa of being a rotzeach. So they kill him Hashem sofa, what he's going to be in the end. How can you kill a person on Hashem sofa? You only punish a person on mashahu sham, what he's right there at that moment, as you learn from Yishmael. Yishmael was 17 years old. Avram threw Hagar and Yishmael out of the house, and he said, "Go back to your father Hagar," which means Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And the boy was 17, because Avram was 86 when Yishmael was born. So when Yitzchak was born at 100, he was 14 years old. And when Yitzchak was 2 years old, a very smart kid, he was 17 already, 16 or 17. So they threw him out, and he died of thirst the next few days on the way back to Mitzrayim. And he did tshuva. So the Malachim said to Hashem, "Why are you curing him? Look what the Muslims are going to do to the Jews in future generations." Says the Gemara. He said, "No, but Asher Husham, the way he is right now, he's a tzaddik. I'll judge him the way he is now." Ben Sora Mora, you judge him what he's going to be in the future. That's the exception. What he's going to be in the future, they see the Bali Ruach HaKodesh, see that this man with an addiction at 13 and 3 months is so sick and addicted. You know, people today who are addicted, they know they're killing themselves, but they do their addiction anyhow. They know they're killing themselves, they can't help themselves. So better kill him before he murders somebody, and then as an innocent person, not Chaim Misa. So when they kill him, this is a cure for his addiction. And he'll go to Olam Haba, not go to Gehenna forever by being a murderer. So that's doing a favor to him by killing him Hashem Sofa, what he's going to be. But it never happened, and it couldn't happen. It's a certain condition. Now, let's learn one last thing, and then we'll quit here. It says here, where's this? Ki yikach, that's a Sedra, a Chav, Dalid, Aleph. It's in Shishi. Ki yikach ish isha, chamishi. Ki yikach ish isha, if a man takes a woman, marries her, or Baalon has relations with her, he consummates his marriage. If he doesn't if he found something, she didn't find favor in his eyes, he doesn't like her. You know why? Not just because he doesn't like her. He found something very immoral and filthy about her. He didn't know before. Ervas dovar, erva, some immoral thing. The cost of law, and he writes her Sefer Krisus, a book of separation. That means a get. But Nosam Yodin gives it in her hand. How can you give it to her if she's a needle? Put it in her Dalet Amas. And the Gemara says even throw it in her airspace. Throw it over her house. When it reaches the airspace over her house already, she's nicked them. Or throw it through the door or the window. Or put it in her Dalet Amas. So, Yodon, give it in her hand, which means you can Megarish her Bal Korcha. Rabbi Gershom stopped that, but you could, in the original times, you could do Megarish Bal Korcha. V'shilcha b'beison, send her out of the house. V'yotza b'beison, if she goes from his house, v'holcha v'hoysel ish acher, and she marries somebody else, after she's known to be a lowlife, so the other guy must be a Russian. And if he hates her too, the second one, didn't realize she's so rotten as she is, the cost of law Sefer Krisus, he writes her a get too. But Nosim B'Yoda gives it to her hand in her possession. The Shilchim B'Beis sends her out of his house. Oh, Ki Yomus Isha, if the man dies, she's a free woman, either by getting divorced or by the guy, she's an almana widow. She can marry anybody she wants. Ki Yomus Isha Achon, the second man dies. Asher Locha Lo Isha took her for a wife. Lo Yuchal Baal Harishon, the first husband can never take her back. Lo Yuchal Baal Harishon Asher Shilcha, that get divorced her the first time, the Shuv Lekachta can't take her back. The Yosef the Isha, to be a wife, Achve Asher Hu Tamo, she contaminated herself. He discovered she did something immoral. To Eva, she's an abomination. She's an abomination. She is, but if you have the child's not an abomination. She's an abomination. She is, but not Vlad. The Pnei Hashem before God. Those second things are, so don't make your land a sinning country where you marry immoral women. Hashem that is God is giving you a nachalo. Now let's take a look at this. She does ervas dovar. Ervas dovar, an erva, some immoral relationship. You have to get rid of her. Mitzvah. You're chayav to get rid of her. Only if she does something that's chayve krisus, chayv kores. Like sinus while she's married. Mechuyav, makashi mechuyav to get rid of her. Let's say she does something that's asur but not krisus. She dresses not in sneers way. The Gemara says, Ervas dover, ha'isha shehiyot says, Marosha Peruah. The Gemara says, in Gittin, Chav Beis, Chav Tes. No, there in Gittin, Daf Beis, it says, ha'isha shehiyot says, Marosha Peruah. A woman who walks out after married with uncovered hair, means uncovered hair, but tova b'shuk, or she weaves in public, and in public the dress has to be pulled up a little because she's peddling that machine that weaves, and her arms have to be, loose, no sleeves. Or she's uncovered on both sides. Barochet says, or she washes in a bathing place where men would bathe. Mitzvah min Torah, it's a mitzvah to get rid of her. Garsha, mitzvah to get rid of her. If she did some zinuz, that's correct. That's ready. If they catch her in the act, they kill her. But you don't kill a woman who doesn't cover her hair. But she's, but there, mechuyev to get rid of her. Here, it's only a mitzvah. It's a good thing if you did. So ervas is one thing, and dover is something else. Ervas is for chayve krisus, and dover is for other things, like being a prutza. So for doing a real erva, you're mechuyev to get divorced her. But if she does other things that are not tznius, it's a mitzvah to get rid of her. You're not mechuyev. So if she doesn't cover her hair, how can you live a Jewish life? Sarah b'isha erva. Sarah b'isha's erva, just like she had no clothes on. A married woman, to her husband, it's okay. If there's no brachas, no kriyas shema, and nothing, but there's anybody around, even if he and her are alone on the table, how could he ever make kiddush? Unless she stands right here and not in front of him. How could he ever sing Zemiros or bench or say Devar Torah? Because Sarah b'isha erva. And the moderns cannot rewrite our Torah, you see. It's either the old way or no way. Erva, as Perua Rosh, Gemara says, uncovered hair, it's a mitzvah to get rid of her. Not mechuyev. But mitzvah if you would, because life is very difficult. What's the kids going to see? They go to yeshiva and they learn differently. And here, and the father tolerates it. It means he's accessory to the crime. It's a very big problem. I know about the Aruch HaShulchan. Don't bring that. He said it's a disgrace what's going on. So it's not the Torah way. It's the weakling's way to find some heter. Try to explain it away. And without, by the way, with the Brewer Roach comes TV and mixed dancing and swimming. The whole rot. You understand? It's not just that. It's a simon of a cancer. That's all. In the house. So the Vilna Gaon says, get Gimel Tes is Aramaic for divorce. Gimel Tes is never used ever in Tanakh, ever. Any word except this word. In Tanakh, there's no word Gimel Tes. Only time is the Gimel Tes is the word get. Like the English word, get out. Get means, that's the only two words in Tanakh. Well, it's not even Hebrew. Get is Aramaic. There's no Hebrew word, says the Gra, that has Gimel Tes in it. Except this, because this means separation. Get out. So the only exception is this word, get. You look in the Shiloh, in the Hebrew dictionary, you find some Hebrew words, but not in Tanakh. There's no word in the Concordancia that has Gimel Tes. in any form, back and forwards or backwards or forwards. Gimel Beis, and it goes to Gimel Hey. Gimel Tes, Gimel, there's almost no word. The Gross says there's no word in Tanakh Gimel Tes except this word. It means separation, get out. That's the only exception. Interesting. The Gross tells you there's no word in Tanakh with Gimel Tes in it, alone or combined. All right, Rabbi, so we're finished. Have a good week from the Torah Anytime Estates. Hope to see you next week, and stay well. And I wish you all kasiva v'chasima tova. And to our Sfardim we say tizku l'shanim rabot. And let's have a wonderful year coming up. We hope this year still has 3 weeks. Maybe, a lot of things could happen. A lot of things could happen. Could be, couldn't it? Could be. Let's achakelo b'chol yom sheyavo. Okay, Rabbi, good Shabbos.